So this presentation has been in the making for several years, of course, but in the last 6 months, it has really taken on a completely different look and feel to it. So I'm very happy to present the new material and new content. Before we really get into the presentation part, I would briefly want to give you a high level picture of how we as a humanity are evolving in time, especially with regard to spirituality. For more than 2000 years, as you know, that religion has placed a major role in the field of spirituality. And there have been few key religions worldwide, and there are a few key themes of each of these religions. And some of these aspects of the religion has been good and some not so good. The good aspects were that it introduced the concepts of God, faith, love, forgiveness, generosity. And the not so good aspects were the introduction of the concepts of guilt, sin, fear, God, hell, kind of a thing. And we can, I think, all see the damage that some of these not so good aspects have done on humanity: war and disease. And this I call version one of spirituality. Then came along New Age spirituality, which I think everyone is familiar with. And there are thousands of variations of New Age spirituality, from law of attraction, Reiki, hypnotherapy, you name it. The New Age spirituality has been popularized by the movie The Secret, which I'm sure everyone has watched. Again, the New Age spirituality has some good aspects and some not so good aspects. The good aspects are it introduced the concept of positive thinking and intentions. The not so good aspects are the suppression of the negative, something I call as spiritual bypass in psychology terms. New Age spirituality, especially the law of attraction concepts, introduced a very serious problem as well. And this problem was not there before. It was actually introduced by some of these New Age spirituality concepts. It installed the idea that it installed the idea in people's heads that if I visualize and think positive thoughts, I can get whatever I want easily and quickly. And this is largely a myth. And this is what we're going to talk in the presentation more, but this is a real myth. Now, I call New Age spirituality version 1.1. It is marginally better than the old religion in the terms of its effectiveness in improving people's lives. So, we are going to talk about that as well. Now, in order to go to a next level of healing, we need to give up some of the old concepts that we learned in order to create some new ways of thinking and evolving. And I truly believe that many people on the spiritual path have outgrown the current model of spirituality 1.1 as well. And I think we are really ready for a completely new paradigm of healing. So, what I'm calling as spirituality 2.0, the fundamental theme of spirituality 2.0 is the idea of individuation. And this is what all my work is about: the increase in individuation of the humanity, one person at a time. See, so far, even like 40, 50 years ago, We were all like followers of something or someone. A blacksmith's son was a blacksmith, a cobbler's son was a cobbler, a Christian son became a Christian. Now we are all coming at a stage in humanity where we want to choose our own path in our life. We don't want to follow things our parents and our ancestors did. So we are really diverging from this cookie cutter mentality. Now, this path of divergence actually is great, but it creates some very serious issues that are actually not addressed by the previous versions of spirituality. And that's what my healing work is all about, is to help uh, move from the cookie cutter mentality and mindset into more individual mindset. Now let's get started with the presentation. Let me tell you a shocking truth. And it's quite shocking to me, especially because when I started to realize this, I said, oh my God, we are really going in the wrong direction in many ways, or I'm going in the wrong direction. The realization I got was that every single challenge that we have ever encountered in our life or will encounter in the rest of the life originates from a single belief that we pick up between the ages of 2 and 3. Exactly between 2 and 3, not before 2 and not after 3. And this is a pretty significant realization. One single belief between the ages of 2 and 3 that creates our destiny. Any chronic health issue, any relationship issue, any financial issue, any emotional issue, all of them. And I've worked with hundreds and thousands of clients, and this theory that I have, if you want to call it, is proving correct every day for me. And in several of my webinars, I talk about this woman. It's such a profound example. She got crippled from an accident when she was around 45. She severely injured her spinal cord. And of course, she was not able to walk, and the doctor said she's never going to walk. Um, but in the healing work that I did with her, I applied these concepts, and she started walking in 6 months. We found the core belief, the core pattern that was causing all this for her. Now, this is shocking, but it not so. It should not be that shocking, right? So, a single acorn, from that acorn develops a giant oak tree, right? One single seed. So it's not too far fetched to think that a single belief can create myriads of challenges or even good stuff, right? It all starts with a seed. So this is actually really good news that if we can find some of these core root issues, then we can solve a lot of problems at the same time. Instead of going and trying to solve one problem at a time, this becomes so much easier and faster. However, the bad news is that we are not mentally trained to think this way. As humans, we are trained to see the problems that are visible to us. We see the leaves of the trees, but not the roots that are feeding the leaves, right? The roots are under the surface. So if, let's say, the leaves are diseased or the fruit is diseased, we may go and start spraying each leaf and each fruit to heal it. But once we start realizing the problem is not in the leaves of the root or the fruit, it is in the roots, then we can do a lot of work very fast. We solve one root issue, It solves many, many manifested issues. I hope that makes sense. Now, before going further, let me give you a very short background about me because it's quite relevant in many ways. So, I was born and raised in India. I grew up in a highly dysfunctional family. I felt lonely, isolated, depressed, and terrified. Fortunately, I developed a deep interest in spirituality at a very young age. And fortunately, I got to meet many spiritually advanced teachers in my life. I was very blessed to have been personally taught by some of the greatest self realized teachers the world has ever seen. My direct teacher, one of my direct teachers, was Goswami Kriyananda, who's on the left side, and right side. He was in the discipleship of Yogananda Paramahansa in his lineage, and some of you may know that Yogananda Paramahansa was the author of the world famous book, Autobiography of a Yogi. Then I came to the US in 1990, got my master's in computer science. I worked at Motorola for 16 years in Chicago after that, where I was one of the pioneers of the development of the 3G and 4G cellular technologies. Then eventually I got tired of the corporate world and I decided to make my passion as my profession. I've done God knows how many hours of meditation. Someday I was calculating probably more than 100,000 hours. Meditation is not just like sitting cross-legged, but analyzing the mind in a very scientific way. And I also discovered at the age of 7 that I had some special healing powers and capabilities. And I have developed these powers through many, many years of dedicated work. So, now getting back to the presentation. So, what is the problem we are really dealing with? As they say, knowing the problem is half the solution. Identity. Identity is our deep seated identity that creates all challenges or all blessings in life. Right? This should not be a surprise to anyone. Our deeper I am. And this I am is the magnet that attracts all things into our reality, good or bad. Now, the soul is the core of our being. It is the divine self which gives us life. Without the soul, there is no life. On top of the soul, and this is sort of the layered structure of consciousness, on top of the soul is the I am layer, the I am for this incarnation. Like each soul takes on in this incarnation, it puts on some clothes for this lifetime. So now take a moment to become aware of some of your identities that you came with in this lifetime. What kind of clothes did your soul choose to wear? For example, you could have chosen to be a man or a woman. Then you may have chosen to have a family and become a mother or a father. Then you may have chosen a profession from millions of professions, right? You get the idea. So the number of identities we pick up for this lifetime is pretty large. And these are more physical identities, but there are so many deeper identities. Now, modern medicine calls some of these identities as genes or genetics. Now, from a consciousness standpoint, there is no such thing as genetics. There are only deep rooted identity patterns. And usually we pick up these identity patterns from parents, and that's why modern medicine calls them genes. Now, on top of the I am layer is the energy body of a human being, meaning the energy body generates from the I am layer. And from the energy body generates the feelings, from the feelings generates the mental body, and from the mental body generates the physical body. I want you to be very clear, physical body is not independent of the underlying layers. It's dependent on all the layers. Ultimately, the root is in the I am layer. That means every physical disease can be traced back to your identity at a deeper level. No questions about that. This is very good news because if I can change my deeper mental patterns and my identities, I can change pretty much anything in the, not pretty much, I can change anything in my physical existence. So, just to give you an example, let's say the soul chose to become, let's say, a doctor in this lifetime. So, the I am layer is saying that I'm a doctor. The energy body of that person will show that this person is acting like a doctor, right? The energy of that person will demonstrate that. And you'll see the feelings being projected from this person is the feelings based on that identity. And this person will think like that. The person will then demonstrate even in the physical body, dress up like that, act like that. So it's all originating from your identity there, everything. Now, dissecting the I am layer a little bit more, the I am layer has got three sub layers. One is called the soul incarnation I am. That's the I am soul chose to pick up in this lifetime. That's the soul's choice. Then, on top of the soul incarnation, is the wounded I am. And I'm going to talk in more detail about that. And then, on top of that, is the coping I am. Now, the wounded I am gets set up exactly between the ages of 2 and 3. Why so specifically? Let me tell you a little bit about that. Now, before the age of 2, the child has no sense of separation, and that's the key. The child feels that it is one with the universe. It is one with the parents, with the one with the universe, one with the environment, everything. It feels one. It does not have a sense of separation. It does not feel that it is a separate human being. After the age of 2, between 2 and 3, roughly, in most cases, the child starts to get a glimpse that I am actually not one with the parents, I'm separate from them. So that's the first time it starts to say, huh, this is me. So it's like it looks itself in the mirror and sees itself in the mirror for the first time. And that image that is created in the person's head at that time, that, oh, this is me, creates a lifelong, long lasting impression. Very, very long lasting impression. Um, it the impression is so long lasting that it for most people is lasts the lifetime. They're not able to get over it. And this is the idea of the deep rooted identity that gets formed between the ages of 2 and 3. Now, how does this child see itself between the ages of 2 and 3? What is the mirror that it is seeing itself through? So, the only way the child can see itself, its own identity at that time, is that through the eyes of the parents, right? It has no other way to see itself. Whatever the parents are reflecting is what the child sees. So the parents are reflecting back a loving, unconditional loving image, then the child will form a good image. I'm good, I'm valuable, I'm precious, I'm treasured. And if the parents see the child in a different way, in a wrong way, then it will form a very bad impression in the child's mind. And unfortunately, most of the people on the healing path have had parents who reflected a distorted image back to the child. And that creates identities like I'm not safe, I'm not loved, I'm not good enough, I am bad, I'm guilty, there's something wrong with me, etc., etc. And this is the wounded I am layer that gets very, very deep rooted, and it creates untold traumas for the rest of the life. And when I'm talking about childhood trauma, I'm not talking about being hit on the head by the parent. I'm talking about simple things that can distort a person's vision about itself and create severe physical traumas later on in life. Now, once the wounded layer is set up, the wounded layer is very painful, as you can guess. To feel that I'm not loved, I'm not valued is a painful experience for a child. It's completely opposite to unconditional love. Now, how does the child survive? Remember, survival is hard coded in the human consciousness. That's why we have survived thousands of years of really bad times as humanity. We will do anything it takes to survive. So the survival mechanism kicks in after that age of 3. The child cannot survive with those kind of traumatic experiences that it got between 2 and 3. So the only way the child can survive is to disconnect the link between the heart and the mind. And heart, meaning as emotionality. All our emotions and our mind gets disconnected. That doesn't mean we don't feel emotions, but a lot of emotions we suppress and we hide and we disconnect from them. So essentially, the feelings layer in the mental body, it gets disconnected. And that's what the coping mechanism kicks in, the survival coping mechanism. So coping mechanism is like a band-aid on top of the wound. And the band-aid works for years and decades to protect the wound. And it works beautifully, actually. However, the unfortunate part is that we completely forget about the wound, and the wound gets really hidden. It's completely out of our awareness. And eventually, the wound starts to fester inside. And at some point in life, the wound comes out in pretty nasty ways. Traumatic experiences, physical traumatic experiences. And the types of trauma that comes out in our consciousness is a whole variety of that. In my healing work, I've seen all imaginable possible scenarios almost. And as a general rule, it really varies from person to person. From the age of 3 to 40, people use the band-aid to survive, and they do a good job in most cases. Then after the age of 40, things really start to fall apart. That's the time where people start to say, oh my God, what is going on in my life? I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm trying this, I'm trying that, nothing is working. The reason it is nothing is working is because the wound is very, very invisible. So, what we are trying to heal are the outer layers without knowing what the problem is, without knowing the root. We are spraying one leaf at a time on the surface. So, if you've got a headache, we take a Tylenol or get a massage or go for some Reiki healing. But does that change our core identity? No, it does not. And that's where the issue is. Now, as part of the coping and survival mechanism, something called personality adaptation comes in. We start to change our nature to fit in, to get some love, to get some acceptance, to get some safety. We start to learn arbitrary definitions of good and bad from society. And then we learn to pretend. We pretend ourselves to be really good from outside and hide the negative, right? We all have hidden negativity, right? I hope nobody has got any delusions about that. Have you seen people go into religious places, sing songs of devotion, pretend to be kind and loving, and come home and do really bad things? I've done it. Now, let me give you a short list of things I did to survive. My mother was a narcissist, so this was a perfect camouflage for survival purposes. I took on the personality of weakness, right? With a narcissist, and especially a child trying to fight a narcissist, like committing suicide. I got into trouble because that was the time I got my parents' attention. Illness, anger, complaining, martyr, martyrdom, perfection to please the parents, hide, victim mindset. These were all coping mechanisms. Note that illness is also a coping mechanism. Now, take a few seconds to think about what coping mechanisms did you apply to survive. And also remember, these coping mechanisms become so deep rooted in our body and mind that eventually these coping mechanisms, distortions, will come out in physical reality. There's no ifs and buts about it. Now, as a part of the coping mechanism, we start to cut off pieces of our being so that we can fit into the society. We disconnect from our feelings and emotions that are not acceptable to the society. If you cry, I will give you something to cry about. These kind of statements from the parents, how will this program the child? The child will then hide the emotions, suppress, hide the emotions. We start to seek perfection to meet the expectations of the parents and the society. And each of these pieces that we cut off from our consciousness will come back to bite us eventually, sometimes in pretty nasty ways. Because we are here to integrate our pieces, not cut off our pieces. Now, this is pretty significant realization that I want to communicate through this slide. So we create two personalities as part of our adaptation mechanism, at least two. Parts of us that are visible and parts that are not visible, meaning the parts that are you can see and the parts that you cannot see. So the parts that you cannot see are essentially like there are pieces cut out from your consciousness. So as an example, as an analogy, let's say you take a photograph of a person's consciousness. And this is what it'll look like. There are holes in it. The consciousness has cut out certain pieces to it. The hidden pieces, the buried pieces, will look like holes in the picture of the person. Now, as we know, our entire reality is based on our consciousness, right? Your physical reality is a mirror image of your deeper consciousness. And I'm not talking about just higher layers of consciousness, I'm talking about the entire deeper layers, especially the identity layer. Let me give you another example. Let's say a person develops cancer and the doctors have to remove some parts of the body of that person. Now, if you match the image, this photograph, the consciousness photograph of that person, with the photograph of the real physical body, they will be identical. Why? Because the physical reality has to, as law of physics, match with the inner consciousness. There's no other way. This is how the universe operates. So the issues start with the deeper consciousness first, and then they start to slowly, gradually show up in the physical consciousness, physical reality. It is not instantaneous. Just like a seed, right? The seed takes time to come up. So the problem starts at the deeper level, the identity level, and then over time it starts to show up in the physical body, and the physical body has to match with the deeper consciousness always. There's a time delay, but it has to match. There's no other way. Now, this is both good news and bad news, right? The good news is that any problem can be solved, no matter what, can be solved by changing our deeper identity. The bad news is it's not straightforward. It's a complicated process. It's not just sitting on the couch and visualizing a future that will get us there. It is much more subtle, complicated, not difficult, but complicated. It's not easy. Simple, but not easy. But if you do it the right way, then the chances of getting there are very high. We got to do it the right way. Now, what is the problem really that we are facing in many ways in this society and culture? So we are living in a culture where positivity and power are considered to be good, and weakness of any kind is looked on upon, right? So we are living in times of hyper positivity, right? In like law of attraction, we are saying, okay, just imagine good, just imagine good, just imagine good. Yes, great, wonderful. What happens to the negative, right? The negative that is suppressed, hidden, is going to come back biting. We cannot ignore that. We cannot ignore that negativity that is stored inside us. So all those hidden parts, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable enough, I'm not safe enough, where do you think these things will go? Right? Let me tell you a quick story about a country in Africa. I can't remember when or what era that was in. Uh, they found that at one point there were hundreds and thousands of people just started to die, and they found out that there was a chemical company that started to store toxic material in barrels and hide it under the sand, because the government was saying that you cannot throw that toxic material into the rivers or the ocean. So they found an innovative way. They started hiding it. And 50 years, 100 years later, the barrels got corroded and they started to leak the toxicity into the water system, the deeper underwater system that got polluted with the toxic material, and it started killing people left and right. Hundreds and thousands of people died in that process. That's the story of human existence at the time, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. What we have hidden it creates toxicity in the body and the mind. So these are the undercurrents, under the surface, under the radar kind of things that are hidden, not visible to us, and they become toxic after a while. And they start to poison our body and mind, just like in that example of Africa country. In 1980s, this psychologist called John Welwood created a term called spiritual bypassing. And he says that it's the term, he defines it as use of spiritual practices and beliefs to avoid dealing with uncomfortable feelings, unresolved wounds, and fundamental emotional and psychological needs. How many times do we do this? You'll be surprised. I'm surprised at myself. How many times I bypass? So the point is, we cannot reach our goals by burying our heads in the sand. What we bury will eventually come back to trouble us, as it always does. Now, this is a quote from Carl Jung, which some of you may be familiar with, one of the greatest psychoanalysts the world has ever seen. He's the equivalent of Einstein. And I have done a lot of research on his work, and he is just phenomenal guy, or was. His work is just unprecedented. It's taking uh, decades, centuries probably, to really understand what he was trying to say. So he says, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making darkness conscious. Extremely profound quote. Not easy to grasp, but very, very relevant for our healing journey. Just look around right now these days in the spiritual world. The spiritual world has gone crazy, I think. Right? There we are imagining beings of light, love, light. Think about higher dimensions, fifth dimension, 10th dimension, God knows what. This has just become insane, actually. I don't know about you guys. I don't know about 14th dimension, or how to get to 14th dimension, but I'm sure we'll get to hospital very fast by following these kind of things. The universe sent us to live a messy human life and learn from it in this three-dimensional plane, right? So, what is the solution to all this craziness that we are experiencing? So, at a very broad level, I'm just going to tell a few things here. It's not that straightforward. The first step in healing is to become aware of our coping mechanisms and the wounds. What do you run to when you are afraid, when you're lonely, when any other negative emotion comes up? What do you run to? It could be something physical or it could be something emotional. It could be something physical like you run to food, alcohol, anger, Netflix, fighting with partner, work, service, helping others, etc., etc., etc. Right? There are so many different types of ways that we run away from our deeper emotional issues. So, to heal the wound requires us to first become aware of the wound itself. If we cover up the wound too fast, instinctively through coping mechanisms, we will never become aware of the wound. And that's what awareness is all about. To get it to a deeper awareness levels is not just imagining beings of light, is to go inside and see deeper and deeper layers of what we are carrying. Yes, positivity is important, no questions about it. But simultaneously, we got to heal the negative as well. We cannot ignore the negative, we cannot hide the negative. So, there are essentially three steps at a broad level. Three steps. There are more steps, but three basic steps in becoming aware of the wound and the coping mechanisms. And let me explain these three steps through an example or an analogy. So I'm sure everybody or most of us have had experience with children, right? So take an example. Let's say your small child comes to you crying. She is upset. What would be the right way to help the child? Right? You cannot say, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Will certainly damage the child for life, right? The right steps are step one, you hug the child. Don't say anything. You should not try to change the child's mind. Just hug. Give comfort to the child. The child is upset. Child is emotional, child is upset. Just hug the child. Just so that the child knows that it is safe with you, that you're not judging her, you're not telling her to change, nothing. You're just comforting her first. Then, when it's the step two is when the child is feeling a little better, then you ask the child what happened, right? What is bothering her? With complete genuineness in your heart, try to understand how the child is feeling. And this is a hard step. We got to be 100% non judgmental at this stage. We cannot start to bring in judgment. Oh, the child is, why is the child even crying for these kind of simple reasons? My brother took my toy. Now, for a parent, it's not a big deal, but for the child, it is a big deal. So we got to be 100% non judgmental, otherwise, we will lose the trust of the child. This is what the child experiences in the moment, and she has the right to feel the way she feels. Does not matter how childish it is. So the second step is about validating the child. Otherwise, we lose the trust. And the step three is equally important, if not more important. So the step one and step two are not enough. And that's where um, it becomes hard, actually. The step three is not easy. The step three is we need to take the opportunity to change the way the child thinks. That's what brings lifelong change in a person. To see a slightly different way. The child is seeing certain things in a certain way, which is not possibly not correct. And this is how we help the child grow. Right? We got to tell the child, okay, the child, let's say the child is upset that somebody said she is stupid. Now, what would be a more mature way for the child to interpret? Remember, our perspective makes a huge difference in our life. So if we don't correct her perspective at this stage, it will remain with her for the rest of the life. It will become more internalized, and then it becomes harder and harder to change it as time goes by. Because that seed that I'm stupid because some little child, some another child told her that she's stupid, will get settled in. It'll become the acorn inside her, and it'll start to blossom over a period of time and attract people who keep telling her and showing her that she's stupid for the rest of her life. It will damage her self worth. Everything will start falling apart at some point because that becomes her core wound. And she will do all kinds of things later on to protect herself from this wound. The types of addictions, so to speak, we pick up after this to cope with this core wound that I'm stupid would be unimaginable. All kinds of things are possible: drugs, alcohol, sex, you name it, because the wound is very painful. So the third step is of wisdom, the choice, a different perspective, a perspective that is aligned with the universal truths. Now, this is hard because the current spiritual techniques are not enough for that. In fact, they're wrong in many cases, right? One of the common, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, one of the common, very commonly used wisdom, quote unquote wisdom, that is used in spiritual context is forgiveness, right? The parent tells the child, oh, you should forgive the child for the other person who said, I'm stupid, because for whatever reason, you just forgive the child. Well, do you think that's enough for the child? Not at all. It doesn't heal her wound, it actually buries the wound, right? So forgiveness is not the answer for that. A much more uh, wiser choice is required. Okay. So that's what we are really dealing with is confusions of the spiritual community, or what religion has taught us, what New Age spirituality has taught us, that is burying all these emotionality, and we are using the wrong tools to hammer something that it doesn't fit in. Now, how do we accomplish or change all this? That's what we are here for, right? If you first is again realizing that we are dealing with a problem, and the problem is not that straightforward to solve. I- If we apply the right techniques, then it becomes easier. But if we apply the wrong techniques, we'll never get there. So I call finding well-being in our life. It rests on three pillars, and all these three pillars are extremely significant. You cannot miss one. The three pillars are self-work, number one, support, number two, and patience, number three. And patience, just patience, if you look at patience, look at the mindset this new age spirituality has created in people's minds. Fast results, right? Fast food, like fast food, fast results. Yes, fast results are possible when we do it the right way. If we do it the wrong way, there is no question it will take forever, if at all, we'll get to our goals, right? If we want to go to the North Pole and we are going east, how long do you think it'll take us to reach the North Pole? Never, right? We'll go in circles. So it's important that we do things the right way. And that is where the support from a teacher comes in. Now, there are all kinds of teachers, and I call them false gods. They have no clue what they're talking about, many of them. Some do, some don't. So you got to be careful that we have to do the self work. Now, the self work itself is not enough, right? I hear all the time, I've been working on myself for 30, 40 years. I'm still there. I still haven't made progress. Why? Because I'm going east. I want to go north. I'm going east. So, all these things are extremely important. Okay. So, all my work, right? I'm not, of course, I'm not perfect, but all my work is geared around solving the I am problem. I do not focus on the upper layers, although upper layers are derived from the I am layer. So everything else heals as well when we change the I am layer. But my focal point is changing I am layer. And that's what creates lasting changes in the upper layers. That does not mean that the upper layers are not important. They are extremely important. So let's say in the physical body, if you have a headache, we need a Tylenol. You cannot at that point go and say, okay, I'm going to start on my I am layer now to heal my headache. Well, the I am layer is important for lasting results. But at this time, I need to take the Tylenol to feel some relief. It's equally important to get relief at upper layers as well. So anything that we are doing at the upper layers are important. No questions about that. Mental body, when we have mental distortions, yes, going to a psychotherapist is important. Getting to see our conscious our mental issues is important. Working with a therapist is important. Feelings layers, things like emotional freedom techniques, releasing these, like the tapping techniques. There are many, many, many different kinds of spiritual techniques to release the emotional issues. Are they important? Yes, they're important. Energy body, going for energy healing treatments like Reiki and other things, equally important. All are very, very useful things depending on the state we are in. But the problem is that we are not addressing the I am layer. And that's where the real change happens that is lasting, permanent, and it changes everything. The upper layers get affected, seriously affected by the I am layer. So if we don't heal the root, the upper layers will be temporary, they'll not be permanent. And that's where the issue is. So all my work is designed to focus on the I am layer. So you guys can read on my website. These are the layer. These are the things that I do. Just as service from a services standpoint, energy psychotherapy. Read upon on that. It is far more potent than just energy healing or psychotherapy. It combines the two. Life drawn healing, miracle healing, urgent care healing. I have described those in great detail on my website. There are short videos as well. You'll learn about that there. And they're all attempting to work on the identity layer. Life drawn healing is quite unique. It's I believe, from an energy healing, quote unquote energy. It's not really energy healing the way we think of energy healing, because it goes to the identity layer. It heals the person's identity. It's the healing is not instantaneous, like many cases. So many people say, "Oh, I didn't feel anything for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever." That's not the point of life drawn healing. The life drawn healing is supposed to change your identity. When we come out of a Reiki session, our identity is the same. We will feel relaxed and better, no questions about it. Great, wonderful, but we are still the same person. Life drawn healing is supposed to bring identity change. Over a period of time, you will not be the same person. You will act differently, you'll behave differently, your habits will change, all that kind of stuff. And again, you can read about that on my website. And psychotherapy, that energy psychotherapy that I do, a lot happens in that session. If you have had an experience on with me, you know what I mean. There is a transmission, there is a change at some very deep levels in a person. Of course, nothing happens in overnight, kind of a thing. It takes time. It puts you on a different trajectory. It's like one candle lighting another candle. So these are the three things, and the miracle healing and urgent care treatments are very helpful in certain cases. I had a case where one of the ladies, her son was having seizures, grand mal seizures for I think 12 years or something. Last couple of years, he was having 20 grand mal seizures every month, and so he was in a really terrible state. So I started the urgent care treatment for him, and overnight his seizures stopped. No seizure. For 7 weeks, he had no seizures. Then I stopped the treatment, and his treatment somewhat came back to some degree. And I'm not doing it again because the healing did not complete. I think we stopped a little prematurely for some time. So anyway, I'll get him back. But those are the things that we need to, in cases where things are too intense and too problematic, some extra work is required. The last thing I want to mention is that I'm starting a new healing class. I'm very I really think this is important, but we'll see how people respond to it. If people really are want something like this, because see, we've gotten so confused that we really don't know what we are even looking for. So, anyways, I'm starting a new class. It's a live class that goes into the details of how to really clear up our deeper consciousness, the identity layer. And like I was saying, that the spirituality that humans have created so far is a double-edged sword, right? And this applies to both spirituality 1.0 and 1.1, the new age spirituality that I was talking about. These spiritual techniques, they enhance the positive, and that's great, but they also enhance the negative, and that's the danger. That's the double edge where it comes from. These methods do not give effective ways to heal the negative. So if you just take the concept of God, the concept of God has been created by religion, the way we perceive God. Now, I say the God concept is the best idea humanity has ever come with. It gives hope and a sense of support to the mind. This is positive. At the same time, the concept of the God is the worst idea humans have come up with. It creates a sense of helplessness and a lack of responsibility in the human mind. It's like putting somebody else on the driver's seat. This whole idea that someone is coming to save us and all that kind of stuff is like a child's mindset, even when we have grown up into adults. And these subtle mindset distortions create untold sufferings later in the life. And similarly is the case with these ideas of love and forgiveness. These are double-edged swords as well. On one hand, they bring a lot of positivity. On the other hand, they create suppression of the negative emotions. So these are dangerous things. We got to be really careful. Most of us don't even know how much anger we carry in our subconscious mind. I did not. I'm still dealing with the stuff that I picked up at a young age, clearing it up, but using the right techniques. I have a hope, I have a chance of really coming out of it for 100%. But the way I was doing it before, there was no chance. Now, if you take the collective unconscious of the entire humanity and combine all of that anger, it is like setting the whole earth on fire, right? 8 billion, 9 billion people angry inside, hidden, suppressed anger is putting the earth on fire. Now, if you remember from my earlier presentation, part of the presentation, whatever is showing up in our physical is seeded in something inside, which is much deeper. So, guess where all this climate change is coming from? The climate change is a physical level manifestation of the collective unconscious. Whatever is in our deeper consciousness will eventually come up in physical reality. No questions about that. Whether it is at an individual level or at a collective level. And I'm convinced that this is due, all that collective anger is due to the bad ideas of spirituality. They're really bad ideas. The negative parts of spirituality are now seriously outweighing the positive. And that's why we are at this stage in human evolution. Now look at on the other side, look at the health crisis worldwide. Right? US alone spent $4 trillion in healthcare in 2019. And it's been increasing like 5-10% every year, year over year. And guess what happened in 2020? The healthcare cost due to the pandemic has skyrocketed. And this is the story everywhere. It's not just in the US. And what are these physical pandemics about? They are a result of the collective unconscious pandemic. Inside our deeper collective unconscious, the suppressed emotions, feelings, thoughts, anger, this, that, whatnot, they're all coming together and showing up in our physical reality. Right? Anything that is in the deeper consciousness will come out. And again, I'm convinced that majority of this is due to the incorrect spiritual ideas humanity has created. Just as a proof, just get a gut feel for the destruction that religion has created with the ideas of sin, guilt, karma, etc., over 2,000 years, 3,000 years. And what is the cost of these ideas on human existence? Right? It's very significant. It's not a small thing. So there is a dire need for a complete paradigm shift in the way we look at our existence. And I'm totally convinced that spirituality is unable to help with the existential crisis the humanity is reaching now. But we can change it, but we need a very, very different way of thinking. One that is not just spiritually based, it has got enough science in it, grounded in the power of the mind, the science, the scientific principles. It needs to be a combination. Just science by itself is also very stupid. Sorry for that word. The science by itself is very, very limited. So we really need to come up with something totally different. So in the interest of that, I am starting a class called I Am 2.0. Because we need a disruptive way of thinking to avoid some of the existential crises we are coming up with. We need ways of thinking and training our mind to start looking and finding the root problems. We need to stop solving the problems only at the manifested level, because that's how we have trained our minds. We only look at the manifested issues. We need to solve the problems at the root level. Of course, we need to solve the problems at the manifested levels as well. We do need to get vaccinations, kind of a thing, for this coronavirus, kind of a thing, at a physical level. But we need to look at the root. Where is all this coming from? What is happening inside? Until we solve that, if it is coronavirus 19, it'll be 20 sometime. We cannot solve the problem only at physical level, at least nothing permanent. So the unseen level, we need to solve the problems at the unseen level, the root level. And that is what the disruptive thinking and changing I want to bring in. And once we start to train our minds into looking at the deeper root issues, then we can solve the problems very fast and a lot easier. Then we are not spinning our wheels. We really need to stop hammering a square peg in a round hole. We are destroying ourselves. We got to look things at a different level. Look, what was that quote that Einstein said? You cannot solve the problem at the level it was created. We need to um, solve the problem at a higher level or deeper level or something like that. And that's what's happening. That we do need to go to a deeper consciousness level to solve the problem, real problems. We cannot solve them at a manifested level. And that's what all my work is about. And this is what my class is about as well, is to train the mind to look at the identity level, how to change the identity of our being. So the class I am 2.0 is your version 2.0. You came with 1.0 when you were born. You did a lot of self work. You went to maybe 1.1. We need a paradigm shift. So this class is going to be about individuation. It's not about becoming one with the universe. It's actually individuating. We are here to individuate. We are not here to become one with the table and the chair. It's a completely different paradigm of healing. It's about finding our core wound and coping mechanisms and increasing our positivity simultaneously in a different way than we have done so far. I teach a 6-step process to heal the hidden negativity, which is bulk of the challenge we are dealing with. And I teach newer ways of increasing positivity, newer and very different ways to handle challenging times. And the content, the magnitude of this class is kind of just is hard to explain without experiencing it full time, all the way. But this is just at a broad level. The class I'm planning to do is 1 to 2 times a month, and it'll be in different time zones, so that both the eastern and the western sides can join as much as possible. They'll all be recorded and send replays. Each class is going to be about 1 to 2 hours long. The price is $497 for 1 year of for the class, and I'm giving a limited time discount of $297. So for the entire year, you get to attend and review these classes, um, and these are live classes, of course. So this is my contribution to the world, to take the to take us as human beings to a different paradigm, rather than we have to die and come back over and over again. At least we will make some good progress in this lifetime itself to go to a different identity. See, what is death? Death is actually dying to a previous identity and coming back again to a different level. But there is a lot of information loss that happens at death. Now we are in this lifetime, we can make a lot of changes and go to a next level without dying in many cases. Well, some cases we have to, and that's fine too. So the class will contain how to determine our core wounds and coping mechanisms. And when we heal those, the deeper self, the true identity starts to show up. And that's the purpose of life, right? That we can see our deeper divine self more clearly. That's why we are here. But the deeper self is covered up by the wound and the coping mechanisms. And believe it or not, actually, the coping mechanism is, sorry, the wounds are also created for a reason. But that's what we are here for, is to clear those up on the upper layers so that the divine self really starts to show up. The mind is a very delusional place. Please remember that. It can create ideas that are not true. Like Ramanand Maharishi says, in this earth plane, the mystery of life is where truth looks like false and false looks like truth. In other words, light looks like darkness and darkness looks like light. So it's confusing. So mind can create ideas, oh, I'm divine. It means nothing until it is realized. It's the realized knowledge that is important, not intellectual knowledge that matters. But that's also important, but it needs to go deeper. So this class will have methods of determining your core wounds and coping mechanisms and healing from that. Then live demonstration of a six-step process of healing some of our deeper negativity. And then the wisdom, which is super critical. We really don't have the right wisdom in the spiritual context. And I'm totally convinced, and I'm not kidding when I say half of our humanity problems are based on the misunderstanding or incorrect understanding of what forgiveness means. Forgiveness is creating suppression, which is coming out in the world consciousness in very nasty ways. There are much better ways of dealing with anger and stuff like that, and I'm going to teach those techniques. And each class we will have a wonderful meditation in the end. And wisdom, there's just a whole list of things, and that's why repetition is important. Just one thing, one time, one class is not enough. It's just not one technique that we can just say, okay, I'm done. We repeatedly see that here at every class. I will take at least one or two examples, live demonstrations of people that I'll do a full process with them, that I many times do in my sessions as well. And because I'm limited person, I can do only so many sessions. I'm hoping I can teach these methods to people so that everybody can do it themselves as well, right? So that we can collectively start to improve our deeper consciousness. So the class, I will cover many different aspects of wisdom, the true wisdom. Remember, the wisdom, false wisdom can look like truth and truth can look like false. So you got to be careful. The wisdom that really helps you feel settled inside, feel peaceful inside, is the true wisdom. And that's not easy to come by. So I'll cover many of these topics, which are really misconstrued in the current spiritual versions of the spirituality. And if you like, you can actually purchase this class right away. And the price is still $297. I don't know how long I'm going to keep it that way, but it's not forever. It will go to $497. So if you go to my website, sanjaynimar.com/I am, and you can purchase this class at this 297 for 1 year. And you will get an email whenever the class is set up, you'll get an email for that, and you'll also get the replays for that. Okay, all right, my friends, let's do a meditation. Let's enjoy a little bit of good healing energy. Um, and then after the meditation, I'll take any questions anybody has got. I'm going to stay here for some time. Okay. So just close your eyes, and I'm going to do my favorite meditation that I do pretty much in all my interviews and whatnot. So close your eyes. Take a couple of deep breaths to release any stress. Now scan your body from top of your head down to your toes and see if there is any stress in any part of the body. Just consciously release it. In your mind, just say, okay, I'm releasing this, I'm releasing this, I'm releasing this stress, tension. Okay, now imagine a ball of light the size of a golf ball, 6 inches above the top of your head. And you can choose the color of this ball. Red, green, blue, whatever you want, golden. Shining, bright, shining ball of light. Now let this ball of light descend towards your crown chakra and slowly enter your body through the crown. Going through the crown, it will affect and change the energy of your crown chakra. Then let the ball of light go down to your third eye, sixth chakra. Then go down to your throat. Then go down to your heart. Then go down to your solar plexus, your third chakra. Then down to your second chakra. Then down to your root chakra. Then going back up from the first to the second. Then to the third. Then to the fourth. Then to the fifth. Then to the sixth. Then to the seventh. Now we are going to do this 2 more times. The second time, we are going to make an intention for and requesting the ball of light to cleanse all our chakras for any negativity stored in them. Remember, removing the negativity is important. Remove, transmute, heal. Basically, we are cleansing our chakras of any old thought patterns, belief patterns that are not serving us anymore. We want to be cleansed. So, cleansing the seventh chakra, feel the ball of light simply absorbing all that negativity and transmuting that energy. Now, your job is simply to let go. Just say, it's okay. It's okay. It's not serving me. Anything that's not serving me, I'm letting go. So let the ball of light just remove that darkness. Then going down to the sixth, allow yourself to release anything that is not serving you. Let it go. It's like your clenched fist, you're opening the fist because you're safe. It's safe to let it go. It's safe to let it go. And sixth to the fifth, let it go. Release. It's a good idea to let go of what is not working for you. Fifth to the fourth, cleanse your heart. Why hold on to the past? Fourth to the third, emotional cleanse. Let it go. Third to the second, second to the first, let it go. Cleanse. First to the second, second to the third, cleanse, cleanse, let it go. Let the ball of light do its job. You do yours, let the ball do its work. Third to the fourth, fourth to the fifth, fifth to the sixth, sixth to the seventh. Take a moment to feel the release, the cleanliness of your entire body. You're cleansed of all the negativity. Now we will do one more time. This time, filling ourselves up with goodness, things that we do need to live a healthy, happy, wonderful life. So, filling ourselves up, allowing ourselves to be filled up with goodness. Fill ourselves up with seventh. Just feel the ball of light infusing your chakras with beautiful healing energy, energy of goodness. Down to the sixth, see it fill up your sixth chakra with the light, with divine light. Sixth down to the fifth, let the light fill you up. Bright, brilliant light filling you up. Fifth to fourth, fill your heart with love, joy, peace, rest. Fourth to the third, fill yourself up with positivity, goodness, health, well-being. Third to the second, second to the first, first back to the second, fill, fill, fill. Take it. Second to the third, then to the fourth, love. Fill your heart with love. Fourth to fifth, fifth to sixth, sixth to seventh, feel it. Feel yourself fulfilled with goodness. Now let the ball of light go up where it came from. Give a thanks. Just say thank you, thank you, thank you for healing me, filling me with goodness. And see the ball of light go back and fly up into the sky where it came from. Good job, guys. Good. Very nice. Okay, so That's all my presentation, and I will take any questions you guys have. Um, okay, all right. So I am here, and if you have any questions, you can raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Anything that comes to your mind. You have any comments, questions, anything? You have this time with me a little bit. Okay, somebody's got their hand up. Mary Barb. Yes, Mary. Um,
Yeah. Hello, Sanjay. Thank
hey.
you for that beautiful presentation.
Oh,
Um, and I love your slides. Very easy to comprehend.
nice.
So Sanjay, the class does sound very interesting, and I do grasp a lot of what you're saying and the need for it. Uh, and I do understand a lot because as much as I feel like I have tried so many things, I'm still in this this place of, like you said, I'm still not getting any. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. Um, so with that, and should I take the class, whatever? But I still feel like I'm in such a depleted state right now. So would I still, by going forward with some of your healing sessions to maybe give me the energy on the different levels? Uh, in addition to the class? Is that, you know,
Yeah,
like
see,
what
and
are you going
yeah, no, no, good question, Mary. Good question. See, like I was saying, Mary, we have different needs at different times in life, right? So
Mhm.
if you have a headache, we need to take a Tylenol, kind of a thing. So
Mhm.
things serve different purpose. So each of my healing modalities. So this class is primarily meant for people who are interested in self work as well,
Mhm.
right? So if there is a desire to really consciously evolve, then we do need to use the right techniques and tools.
Right.
And that's what this class is really about, is teaching you the right tools and techniques. Now
Mhm.
there are times where we need to get some healing through me, let's say directly, through either my personal sessions, through my life drawn healing, to come to a stable state of some kind. So
Mhm.
that is, it serves a different purpose. So
Right.
it has to be seen what is your need at a particular time. So maybe we can talk separately about it, and really evaluate your case and see what I think would be the best for you. But in
Mhm.
general, I am starting to recommend this class for everyone, because we
Yeah.
do need to apply the right tools, and once we apply the right tools, the healing becomes so much easier and faster.
Yes.
It's like just we are just applying the wrong tools, and no fault of
Mhm.
anybody, because this is all we have learned. This is all
Right.
that was available to us, but it's just not working for most of us.
Yeah, clearly. It's becoming very clear.
No, it is very clear for everyone, Mary. If we are all
Mhm.
look, everybody, if they're honest with themselves, they'll see that we are really stuck in a rut of some kind.
Mhm.
So it's nothing wrong per se. We have worked and we have done a good work, and we have come to the see. We have been in a survival mode. That's the point. We
Right. Right.
the survival is what we have come this point to, and that's great. We have survived. Otherwise, most of us would have been dead by now, actually. But
Mhm.
now the survival is part is done. We need to go to a thriving state, and spirituality 1.0 and 1.1 is not going to take us into a thriving state. That's the point.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
for that, we really need to see something differently, and that's what this class is about: is to start shifting us from surviving to thriving.
Right. It sounds really good. It really does. I'm excited. I'm going to do it.
All right.
I'm going to commit to it, and then we'll talk. We are set up to talk this week. So then you can guide me further how I could get the energy to continue to do
Absolutely.
this stuff.
Absolutely.
That
And even in
sounds
the even in the Mary, even in this class that I'm talking about, like for
mhm,
example, you will see that I will actually handpick one or two, handpick or meaning like just randomly pick one or two people every class where we'll do a live demonstration of how to really heal our deeper consciousness, and you will see
right.
the commonality, the amount of anger that is there in everybody's consciousness, not just you and me, everybody. How to
Yeah.
heal that anger? The answers are pretty non-intuitive. They're pretty counterintuitive actually. So
Mm,
the real answers are, we once you start to learn those, the amount of weight of anger that we are carrying will start to dissolve, and you start to get the energy back.
right. 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 And you said something on I don't remember what show it was on. I heard you on recently, but you did say something about the way to transmute anger, and it was something I've never heard before. And I was
Mm,
like, "Whoa." So
mm.
it just made sense to me. So you're right, and you're right. You cannot hide these things, like you said. You can't just focus on little skinny girls with watermelons in their hand. It doesn't work that way. I
Of
don't
course.
know why that struck me so good, but you're right. Like visions of people with their little red Porsches and stuff. I'm like, I can't get out of bed. Never mind even get in a red Porsche or a bikini. So
Oh, yeah, that's funny, Mary. Wonderful. No,
I
good.
yes, well, I'm excited, really excited about it. So I do get you. I like it. I feel like I could connect with you. I'm excited about our talk this weekend and what we can go from there. But I'm definitely
Perfect,
going to
Mary.
join the course. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Wonderful.
yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you for all this.
All right. You take care. Much love.
You take care. Thank you, Sanjay.
Bye bye. Okay. Carol, no, Anne, and I think I saw Anne's hand first. Anne, you can unmute yourself and talk.
Okay, is this me?
I think so. Yes. Yes, it is you.
Okay,
Mm,
okay, good. I didn't know which Anne you were meant. Okay,
mm,
I have a question about the ball of light.
mm,
So, the ball of light from our source, the Great Mother Central Sun, whatever terminology people use,
mhm.
why would we not draw that in and keep that within us rather than sending it back away? Why would we not draw that heaven's light, source light, in and keep it instead of sending it back?
Um, I don't have a real good answer for that. It's You can. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. If this was just a meditation, that we are actually actualizing, that getting the energy and sort of sending it back where it came from. But you can modify it. No questions about that. You feel that it's better for you and it works better for you to hold it inside. Um, by all means, modify the meditation. It's a meditation only. Remember, Anne, only in the sense that we are transmuting certain things actively and consciously when we were doing that meditation. So, but
Yes, I see. That makes sense. Yes. So you're seeing how you can put that light to use in a visualization, and there are no limits on bringing to earth the source of our being, anchoring it into the earth plane.
no, yeah, be your own creator of whatever you want to create, Anne.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for answering my question and for this beautiful meditation and your wonderful teachings of core trauma that really awakened a lot of benefits, not only for myself, but for clients that I see, to address things that we are unaware of that maybe need to the light for transmutation
Beautiful, beautiful.
and perfect healing. Yes, thank you so much. What a gift.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Namaste. Thank
No,
you.
no. Okay, I think the next one is Carol. Carol, you got your hand up. You can unmute if you like.
Okay,
Carol.
hi, Sanjay. I'm here.
Hey, Carol. Yes.
Hi. Um, I just talked to you recently.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, okay. I went to your website and I was a little confused about what to choose. You said mentioned a personal session. And so would that be in the Lifetron? Um,
No, the personal
you
session
have,
is separate from Lifetron, right? They're like if you go to my pricing and stuff, you will see there are two different things.
okay. I guess I couldn't really understand where the personal set, where to get the personal session sign up is.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah. Under the pricing, there's a line item called energy psychotherapy.
oh, okay.
That is my personal session, the energy psychotherapy.
Oh, okay. So I should just look at that then.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've had many decades with the transcendental meditation, and I really can I can really understand, where you're coming from. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, Carol, no, absolutely. The good point you bring in. No, all these meditations and stuff are great. I'm not denying that. The problem
Yeah.
is, see, when what happens, imagine you've got a glass which has got dirty water in it, right? Imagine that. Now, if I
Yeah.
start to pour clean water, the first thing that will come out is the dirty water, right? So
Right.
that's what happens when we meditate, we do the right things, the positive things, the old dirt will come out first. And that's what we are
Right.
not here to handle properly. What we try to do is, okay, I'm meditating, I'm feeling good. And then next day I feel terrible. Now I don't know how to handle that. So I now either meditate more or try other ways of suppressing all that negativity because I think I'm doing something wrong or I'm not doing enough. So, and that creates a vicious cycle that we are now trying to pour this clean water, and the dirt is coming out. How do I handle that dirt? Right. So
Right. Yeah.
that is the real problem, actually, that we really need to know and understand that this is the process. This is how it works. We need to find ways of clearing the junk that is coming out, and we don't know how to do it. So that's
Right.
no. So the reason I was just commenting on your meditation, beautiful. I'm glad you did that. But now you need to learn how to handle some of the junk that is stored in, and how to clear that up. And that's how you will start to make good progress. Okay.
Great. Okay.
Wonderful.
Thanks so much.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much. That was wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. Jana on chat is saying about techniques. Does it somehow work with some limiting beliefs to change them, replace them, or is it more intuitive work and some kind of self energy? No. It is about the limiting beliefs for sure. The wisdom is about limiting beliefs on how to handle some of those deep rooted ancestral beliefs that we have come up with. So the wisdom is going to be a lot about that. The wisdom, the techniques, it's all about that, actually. Or not all, that's part of it. So I hope that I answered that question, Jana. Okay, I think that was the. Okay, Warren says, what are the general results of changing one's identity? Does one's genetics, epigenetics, or Akashic records change as a result? Of course. Of course. It is the identity is what generates all these genetics and epigenetics. Right? So when you change your identity, which is your deepest layer of your being, right above the soul, then it changes everything. Yes, your Akashic records change based on that. Okay, all right. That was the question from Warren. And if anybody else has any question, feel free to raise your hand or just unmute yourself. Okay, I'm just trying to see if there's any other questions on the chat.
Sanjay,
Yes, who's this?
hi. This is Lou. A repairman came just when the seminar was starting, so I missed about half of it. Will there be a replay? Maybe you already mentioned that. I don't know.
No, there's always going to be a replay. So for anything that I do,
Okay.
I can send a replay. So you'll get the replay, yes.
Okay, wonderful. That's what
It
I'm
may
doing.
come in a day or two, but you will get it.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, Lou. You're welcome. Okay, I am not seeing any hands or questions. I'm going to stick around for another 2-3 minutes. But I think we are done pretty much. Okay, very good, my friends. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, remember, I am always available through email or something. So yeah, I will hope to connect with you again. And if you are interested in signing up for the class, just go to my website. I'll also send a link for that, sanjaynamar.com/IAM. And it's going to be a pretty powerful class, I can tell you that. Okay, thank you guys. Have a good time. Blessings, good luck, and I'll connect again sometime. Bye-bye.